joining again. Cute4teams, champions using teams effectively. I'm Ricardo Wilkins, and we may have Stacy joining us a little later, and Nash, I think, is out today. So without further ado, since it took me a while to kind of get going there, we'll just kind of open it up. If you happen to be new, although I think everybody that I see here has joined before, but if you happen to be new, ask me anything or ask us anything. Open questions is what this is meant to be all about, and we will try our best to answer. I do see in the chat, Glenn mentioned the channel calendar. Glenn, did you want to talk about what your thoughts are there?
Yes, we heard that we might be getting channel calendar that an owner can create a separate calendar within a channel for like a sub team. And do you have any? We haven't gotten it yet, but do you have any information on that? And is it going to be like Sharepoint Calendar?
So if you're talking about what I'm pointing to here, the channel calendar, I mean, I think that's been there a little bit. Maybe it's easy to miss because it's not a part, for whatever reason, it's not a part of the top kind of native buttons. It's down among the more apps there. But is this what you're referring to? Tim, I see your hand up. I don't know if you're
Yes, I didn't know it was there. Thank you.
Okay. Now, it is an interesting concept. So what it is, for anybody that hasn't used it, is so I'll go ahead and add it to this team here so we can see what this looks like. I can call it whatever I want. I'll leave it at that. And it is adding a calendar that looks very much like your calendar that you would see when you click calendar. The way I describe it, it is the Office 365 group calendar for that team. The intent, from my perspective, is to make it easier to see the meetings that are scheduled for that particular team. And I specifically say meetings more than events, because I know I've had some folks get excited about this as a place to, hey, now we got a calendar to store things going on, which technically it could be, but I feel like it is more geared towards storing and surfacing Teams meetings that are coming up, more specifically. I feel like it is trying to address the pain point of, channel meetings getting scheduled, and depending on, whether you saw that invite or something like that, I don't know, what's coming up, easy way to get to it. It didn't hit my Outlook calendar, things like that. This calendar is always available through Outlook. Sometimes, though, maybe it takes a couple more clicks than you would like to get there. I feel like this is trying to address all of those kind of things. I feel like what it may not be, well, you can use it however, but for those that were just looking for a place to organize calendar events per se, you can certainly do it here. And it, especially if you like the look of it, you like the way, the Teams calendar looks, but there are some other options like a SharePoint calendar, or a SharePoint list. And really, a SharePoint calendar is a list, but a SharePoint list with a calendar view. We could talk through all that if you guys, do want to dive into calendars, because that's always been an interesting topic for me in all my SharePoint years. So that's my initial thoughts about that. If your specific need was the meetings for our team, can I get a great way to consolidate that in one place? I think that's exactly what this is, and hopefully should just give you exactly what you want just by adding it. And Glenn, maybe the only thing you missed there was that it of course, now that I've added it, is up there, but initially you noticed that it was buried down in the more apps area. So hopefully that's the part that you missed. Tim, I don't know if you or were you gonna add to the
a couple of things I'd add, Ricardo.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. And when you say it's not the full sort of team or group calendar that people thought it would be. And when we introduced it, we actually started by saying, this is what it is not. Because the other thing I'd say, it does not show all of the team's meeting. It only shows the channel meetings for the specific channel that you tab it into. So it's actually a filter on channel meetings in the team. It's pretty limited from our use on it. But I agree with what you said. It brings those channel meetings all together in a single location. That's how we've used it. So if we have a large team where we do like office hours, and we do those as channel meetings, and then we tabbed it up there to say this is the schedule for this channel
Yeah, I agree. If it is great for the very specific thing it's meant to do, it does that very well. But if you're thinking about using it in a more broader sense, that's where it gets so confusing. Glenn, were you going to ask a follow-up there?
No, I was just going to say, I did check our, local site, and we don't have all the icons that you showed, but we do have the add a channel calendar now.
Okay.
So I didn't know it was there, and you're right, it's below, and thank you.
Yeah.
So that
and if you're missing these, certainly many organizations will kind of block everything by default and then enable, per app what they want. In this environment, I've got all apps enabled, so that's why you'll see a full list in mine here. But that may look different from yours. If you're not seeing some of these top level ones, again, that could also be an admin disabling a particular app or not enabling one.
Yeah, I just looked at the screen as presented. I never scrolled down, so that's
okay.
my fault.
And to me, that's perfectly honest mistake, because you would think that should show up here. And I don't know why once I add it the first time, now it's there, but there you go. So I will say from a calendar perspective, I'll just really quickly, this might be useful to show you what it looks like to do this with a SharePoint list. So let me go back one more iteration. Before the channel calendar came out, I would have customers trying to get a calendar concept in their team. And one approach they would use is to use, I'll call it old school SharePoint calendar. I'm going to go to files just as an easy way to open up this team's SharePoint site. And what I call old school SharePoint calendar, I mean, I'm literally talking about the same calendar that's been in there. I think SharePoint 17 years old or something. So it's older than my children. No, anyway, so let's go site contents. Actually, it's probably not. Yeah, I'm gonna go this way just because of how I would do it back in the day. Contents, is that right? And an app, actually. And so for all you SharePoint fanatics, this is bringing all the nostalgia back to you. And then help me out, Stacy, if I'm forgetting where my stuff is. Find more apps in the share. I see now they've really.
Yeah, I was debating if it is just under the list type. Is it under the app now, or do you start from a list? Ooh, there you go. I think you landed there.
Yeah, but these are third party. It used to be an app that you would add, but you're right. Maybe so if I go,
because I know there's a list view that'll take events and put them in a calendar.
So okay,
go ahead. If you go back one screen, you have to get back into the classic. See where in the lower left where it says return to classic SharePoint? Go down.
Really?
That's what I've had to do to get. I think what you're.
And I don't want.
It's the only way I could create it, and then it allowed me to put a calendar in.
And I really don't want to do that. I don't want to mess this up.
I know you don't, but what we found is without going back to classic and without having a third party, we were unable to create the calendar that people really like. The only other way is to do the list in the calendar view, but it's not really the same.
Okay. Is it still, is it that way as well when you start from, like, say, adding a page as the owner? Can you add a web part that?
Yeah, I'm gonna
And
stop this approach then if it has changed that much, because it's not worth, it being
Yeah.
so old, it's not worth it. So I'll instead go, as we were all saying, go with the modern list. And certainly we could take one of these, but I'm just gonna do a blank list. No, actually, probably might be best to start with the event itinerary or something like that, something that's already calendar related. So let's just go with event itinerary and use this template, and just leave it at that. Okay, so we got a basic list here, and I'll add a new item. Nothing looks calendary yet. So my events and some other fields, like, of course, the date here. So let's put a date there and an end date that's further. Let's just leave it at that. So it's a standard text. Let me get rid of that. Standard text list, but the key here is now where is my calendar view? Event list view, grid view. It's not gallery. So of course, I think I chose the wrong template here, because that's what I was trying to show is the calendar view, which would turn this into the kind of calendar view you would expect. Then we add this to a team. I'm not sure why it's not showing here. Let me do one more try here. I don't know if anybody noticed where my mistake was, but I'll try with a, let's see. Let's try this one. One of these templates has
anything with a start date and end date should
Yeah.
have the ability to render a calendar view. It
Right.
would you have to create a new view and then select from there?
Is that what it is? Create a new. That's what it is. You're right. You're right.
There you go.
So I'll just I'll go back to my other one here. Create a new view, calendar. Name that. Start and end date. Blah blah blah. Hit create, and there's my event. Which one I think there it is, and then I think details come over on the side or something. But in any case, it's starting to look, like what we would want. And so this is certainly able to take, doesn't care if it's a Teams meeting or not. It'll take anything and pop it in there, right? Thought there was a way to see details on the side. I might be missing something there. But once we have this, now coming back to the team, adding I think it'd be safe to add even it as a list. So we'll save that, and we'll add an existing list, and it is our event itinerary. I hope I'm not clicking too fast. And then choosing the calendar view, and now within the team, a nice, elegant calendar, which again is ready for more than just Teams meetings. So these days, this is the approach I suggest to folks who are trying to do some calendaring in their team. The old school SharePoint calendar was very similar. It just wasn't as pretty. But yeah, this is to me the great approach today. And of course, then you get all the benefits of SharePoint power of lists, and changing the formatting of your data entry screen, alerts on new items, and all of that good stuff. I think I'm missing things from the chat here. So it sounds like one of you is already using one for a progress tracker. Yes, there's a board view that, as you mentioned, that is nice looking. And then, can you see meeting details? And I that's what I was looking for. I think maybe I didn't add any details, and that's what's missing. to see a little description here and things like that. And back. Because I was expecting to see, okay, so there at least is the title of that particular one. Come here, there's the title. So I think that's what I was expecting to see. And then of course, clicking on it, let's try this one. Clicking on it or double click to open and see details.
But really all you're doing there is creating a list item for an event or something. When we throw the term meeting around, I get a little nervous because you're not creating a Teams meeting. You're not creating an Outlook meeting. You're just adding a list to a list item to a SharePoint list. It just so happens to be laid out like a calendar. Right.
So yeah, depending on your goal, that's good or bad. Because to me, I've got now a lot of options for that list item, including the different columns I can add for more details and whatnot. But no, it's not going to show up in my Outlook calendar per se or anything like that.
Hey Jim, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to add, the way I've used that event item is that I use it as a gallery within a homepage for a SharePoint site. The benefit of creating that app is that in that environment, when you click on it, it has the ability to add that event to your calendar in Outlook. So that way the meeting actually transfers over to in there. So I also include the Teams meeting link inside of the calendar event. So that way they would also get the link to join the meeting from within their calendar.
Are you saying you add it here on like a SharePoint page? Is that what
yeah, one of the widgets in there is an event. So
the event one.
Yeah. So right up above there, it says the event itinerary work program tracker. I think those were, well, they look very similar to it. Yeah,
that's the activity.
Well, that's the activity then. No, so that's not it. But by creating an event inside of that, it automatically brings in that add to calendar option, which I didn't see in yours for some reason.
Yep. So I think to your point, just add an event. It's all SharePoint page specific. Yeah. So this is definitely another approach, more centered on the SharePoint page. I don't see the add to my calendar button though, but let's see. Save. Then
now it's there.
Oh, you saw it?
Yeah, once you've created it, you see it has that little add to my calendar.
Oh, sure it does. Yeah.
Under the win.
Yeah. So that just further expands this topic or this concept, right? We're at least 3 ways to do it. I saw somebody kind of mention their team likes to see it a particular style, and some of these aren't, they don't like. So there's several flavors for this, which is it's interesting. and SharePoint saving the day in all of those scenarios, right? Good old SharePoint.
Yep. Cool.
So yeah, great question.
So did you guys talk about webinar before I got here?
We did not. I think you've got some info on that today for us, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that this audience was aware that I got word yesterday from our team's product group that it is officially fully 100% rolled out to the government cloud. So if you have been watching for it and you still don't have it, then you might want to engage your CSAM. You might want to engage your version of Ricardo on your Microsoft team. But hopefully you will all be seeing webinar landed. That's what Ricardo just did on the screen, is how you know if you have it or not. Yay, April, I'm so glad to see you confirm, because I was definitely hoping that was the case for you, because I know that I think it was last week, it still wasn't there for you. And that was the case for several of my customers. It was rolling out almost at the individual level. So you could be in a tenant where part of the tenant and part of the user base already had it, and some other folks within the tenant were still waiting for it. So now that I have that 100% done message from the Teams product group, I'm confident in saying that you should have it. If you don't have it, then there's probably an issue we need to look into with support. Now that webinar is landed in the government cloud, we of course want everyone to go out there and tinker and test, and hopefully you have a fantastic experience. But we are also putting together some events to help support you in learning how the process works. What Ricardo is showing you from his demo tenant right now, which I'm really grateful for since I joined late, I don't have mine up. So thank you, Ricardo. But in there, you can see webinar works a little differently. You have to kick it off from the new meeting button on your calendar. And then as you, once you select that, it gives you an option to create that webinar. Oh, he's going to back up and show you. Yeah, you can create the webinar from there. And you see it looks much like a Teams meeting with a couple of new things at the top that are calling your attention to the fact that you are creating a registration that's going to tie to this webinar. And you have the ability to do that for people in your org. By default, that's how it comes. But you also, through perhaps working with your IT, can have that the for everyone option available as well. What that means is they don't have to be internal to your organization in order to register on your webinar event, which we have so many use cases in the government cloud for that. Anytime you're hosting community engagement type content sharing or webinars or giving any kind of talk or presentation out to your citizens, or even the external folks like Jim has in his organization, where there's just many external partners that work among your spectrum of care, you can do that using Teams webinar. Once it's available, you can go kick that off, and then customizing the registration form is a new feature. It pops up in an additional UI there, and you can customize the look of your registration. Basically, what you're doing is creating a web page for your audience to go to and register. So you can make it beautiful by uploading an image. Ricardo, if you have a banner image handy, that would be awesome, but don't feel any pressure because I know those in perfect pixel count aren't always at the ready. So no sweat if you don't. Yeah. But you just upload that image. It creates a banner across the top of your page, and then you add in all the event details. And I want you to be mindful. This is something that I found in my testing. The webinar that you create within Teams Calendar and the registration form here are two separate entities. So if you make a change to something in that calendar, you're going to have to change it here too. Just be aware of that. The calendar event that you're creating in your Teams calendar, you're going to target to the presenters that are joining your meeting. And then the registration page is where you're going to point your audience. And once they register, once they step through this process by filling out their first name, their last name, their email, and then in any additional fields, you can see that little add field button there. Any additional fields that you choose, there's even completely custom input or choice fields available. They will automatically receive an email confirmation of the webinar registration, and that email confirmation will have a join link embedded in it and an ICS file that they can add to their calendar. So that's all baked into Teams webinar, which is so exciting to me. I have spent lots of time over the last year helping customers customize this process using Microsoft Forms to be the registration page, using SharePoint lists to house the registrations as they come in, using Power Automate to route that information around where it needed to be. This is all done for you. There's no flows that have to be built extraneously. And those folks in your audience, the ones that you are going to send that registration link, that message that they get back with confirmation also allows them to cancel their registration as well, which if you do this a lot, you can imagine the number of phone calls that you can save just by allowing those folks who've registered to tweak their registration when and however they need to, rather than having to call you and say, I need to change to another day, or I need to do something differently, they can manage that themselves through this process, which is so cool. Are you showing them an example of a registration?
Yeah, the registration form there, if it comes up.
Yeah, it'll launch out to Excel. And for now, it says no one has registered. But for those of you who have seen the attendee engagement report from a typical meeting, it's going to look a lot like that. It's going to have their name, their email address, and it's also going to capture any of those other new fields that you put out there for your folks. So you'll be able to get that data as soon as people start registering. The other thing that's new there, and I know I kind of did a tour of this a couple of weeks ago, but that attendance tab at the top, that's new. Now that webinars has landed, it's also new in your team's meetings. As the organizer in a team meeting, that attendance tab is going to give you a lot of information. For the webinar, you could see how many people viewed your registration page, how many people are registered, how many have canceled so far, and their list of who they are and their registration status. So that tab is really powerful in that at a glance, you can see that information. You don't necessarily have to go and download the file when you just want to take a glance and see what your counts are. But anytime you do want to download the file, it's available from the Details tab and from this tab. It's out of your screen, Ricardo, but on the far right side of that Attendance tab at the top, there's a little download button.
Oh, it's off the screen.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just a little bit off. I think it's under that close button. Yep, there you go. Now you can see. So that's available there for you to grab at any time, and it's editable in Excel. So if you do a lot of these or a series of these types of meetings that you want to turn into webinars, I love that feature because then you can download that after the fact and then put all of those downloads together in one Excel. So you can keep track of, say, perhaps webinar attendance over the course of a year or a quarter, however long you need to report and have some cool data then that you can dashboard and do other things with. So that's it in a nutshell. But the major news feed, since you guys have seen this over the last, let's see, not last week. I don't think I was here last week, but the week before that, I know I touched on this some. Just the fact that it's 100% available. If you're not seeing it, that's a key thing to bring up with your IT folks. But hopefully you see it and can find some good use cases for and check it out. Let us know maybe next week once you've had a chance to tinker with it, how it's going.
Awesome. Tim, I'll give you the last word here as we wrap up. You got a question?
Yeah, we, Stacy and I talked a couple of weeks ago, we had it turned on early. And just one thing that we found out, we had, like I said, by default, you could not invite people from outside your organization. And one thing we discovered is that in order we asked to have it turned on, and there were some security concerns, but in order for people to actually join the meeting, they must register. So let's say somebody joins the meeting or registers and they try to send the email invite to their friends. They can't just hit that link and join the meeting. It stops them from doing it. So it allowed us to tell our security people that we had a good check on who was coming into the meeting and allowed us to then turn on everyone.
Nice.
The question I had,
Great.
maybe Ricardo and Stacy, normal meetings right now, the limit is 1,000, but you go into the view only mode and it goes up to, I believe it's 20,000. It's a little unclear in the documentation exactly if that works that way for webinars. Do you happen to know?
Yeah, I believe it does. I have a slide. Let me see if I can grab it. So I went looking for that too. Ricardo, have you heard any different? Because I think my
I wouldn't expect different. I've always heard
Exactly.
that this is a normal Teams meeting with registration added. So
That's right.
I would expect it to work that way.
I did have this cool slide. Let me see. I know we're over time. It might be something that I paste in next week. Yeah, I can't put my hands on it super quickly. Sorry.
Or they can join your upcoming webinar.
Yeah,
Did you,
absolutely.
I don't know if you got anything
So-
you could put in the chat or I can bring up on the screen or anything for that.
Yeah, let me see. I might just share my screen.
Okay.
Although really what you need is the links. So let's do this. If you're able to hang for another minute, I'm going to share out my screen and then I'll cut and paste some links into the chat. And of course, you all know how to reach me outside of Cute4Teams if you have any questions about what you see or how to participate. So what I'm showing you is an invite that hopefully you'll be receiving from your Microsoft team. We have put this invite together, and in the invite, there is a one-pager that we hope is really helpful around webinars that you can share out to your coworkers or maybe even your IT team or your business team, anybody who doesn't have it, although hopefully we'll have blanketed our customer base pretty well by the end of the day or end of Monday. But we're doing 30-minute sessions, one-to-many, so we'll have lots of customers joining us, I hope, and I'll have an opportunity to take everyone through the webinar feature. That'll be Thursday, May 5th at 3 o'clock or Friday, May 6th at 12:30. These are all Eastern times, and I will paste these links in our chat here. Just know that choose the link for the day that you want to attend. So it'll be late afternoon on the 5th and middle of the day on the 6th.
Sounds good. I was trying to pop that in there for you.
Oh, nice.
But awesome. Appreciate you guys hanging out a little longer. Good conversation. Last thing I'll mention, I'm going to try to put a little form on the aka.ms/Cute4teams where you come to this meeting. I was going to try to put a little form. We talked about this, I think, last week, where you can submit things you want to talk about at any time, throughout the week. And that'll give us some, a list to compile and be able to prep some of those things. So we're just trying to get more feedback about what to talk about. I think it's certainly working to, have you just come and ask anything. We're certainly fine with that too. But if we can prep for some things ahead of time based on your input, we'll certainly do that as well. So be looking out for that at the AKA link for Cute4Teams.
Great.
All right. So yeah, go ahead. Stacey, do you have something?
No, I was just agreeing with you. I think that's an awesome idea, and I love the input always.
Awesome. All right, everyone. We'll have a good rest of your day and great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and check out the blog for more content.